Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama on Rajya Sabha Television with me, Frank Pereira. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events to have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. US President warns North Korea and its supporters that the era of strategic patience is over. South Korea announces decision to increase its weapons arsenal. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping hold talks over North Korea and trade. The US president causes a flutter on social media as he gets around the Great Firewall of China to send out messages on Twitter, which is banned by Beijing. "26 people killed in a shooting at a church gathering in Sutherland Springs, Texas last Sunday. Official says gunmen carried out a methodological attack. US President calls the Texas shooting the result of a mental health problem at the highest level. And 201 people held for questioning as part of a sweeping anti-corruption drive in Saudi Arabia. Attorney General says at least $100 billion misused through systemic corruption and embezzlement in recent decades. Well, US President Donald Trump landed in South Korea on Tuesday, the second stop on his Asia tour. With the prime focus of the visit being on the North Korean crisis, Trump warned Pyongyang and its supporters that the era of strategic patience is over. Both presidents also said that the amount of weapons equipment South Korea will be ordering will be increased. Here's a detailed report.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in welcoming US President Donald Trump to the presidential Blue House. Soon after his arrival, Trump had lunch with Moon Jae-in and US troops stationed at Camp Humphreys, the largest US military base in the country, and then both held a meeting. Addressing a joint press conference soon after, Moon Jae-in hoped that Trump's visit to the country proves to be a turning point for the situation on the Korean peninsula, while Trump again called on the international community to do more to tackle the North Korean issue.
I hope that your visit to Korea and to Asia-Pacific region will offer us the opportunity to release some of the anxiety that the Korean people have due to North Korea's provocations and also assert a turning point in resolving the North Korea nuclear issue.
North Korea's situation will be a discussion that we will have front and center. And hopefully something's going to be very successfully worked out on that. And trade is something that we always talk. It's one of my favorite subjects. I guess it's one of the reasons that I had that great successful victory last year at this time.
In coming days, 3 US aircraft carriers, accompanied by guided missile destroyers and submarines, will be conducting a mock battle in the waters in the region. It is most likely a show of power by the US forces and will be seen by North Korea as a direct provocation. And China suggested that both the US and South Korea shouldn't indulge in any provocation.
We believe that at present the situation on the Korean Peninsula is very complex and severe. All relevant sides should exercise restraint, avoid irritating each other and dedicate themselves to alleviating the tense situation on the peninsula and at the same time positive efforts to getting the North Korean nuclear issue back on a track to a resolution via talks as soon as possible.
China is North Korea's primary ally and has been strongly criticized by repeated US administrations for not doing enough to rein in its military programs. Trump will be meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing later this week and Russian President Vladimir Putin at a meeting of Asian leaders on the weekend. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the US President and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping held talks over North Korea trade and other issues in Beijing on Thursday. Both leaders held a series of meetings and oversaw the signing of multi-billion-dollar business deals. And interestingly, Trump tweeted about all developments, which took many by surprise, as Twitter and a few other social networking sites are banned in China. Here's more.
Day 2 of Trump's visit to China, and Chinese President Xi Jinping rolled out the red carpet welcome for the US President. The welcoming ceremony outside Beijing's Great Hall of People was broadcast live on state television, unprecedented treatment for a visiting leader.
总统阁下，中国人民解放军仪仗队列队完毕，请您检阅。
Earlier in the day, the US President and his Chinese counterpart held a series of meetings and announced the signing of $250 billion worth of business deals. Trump lavished praises on Xi Jinping and even swerved away from blaming China for the trade deficit. The Chinese leader reciprocated with equal praise for Trump and said that China will open its doors wider for the US.
太平洋足够之大，容得下中美两国。
I told President Trump that the Asia Pacific is big enough for both US and China. Both sides should increase communication and cooperation in regards to Asia Pacific issues, building the same group of friends from constructive interactions which jointly protect and push forth regional peace and prosperity.
As expected, discussion on how to deal with North Korea's threats to the region dominated the talks. Trump also thanked Xi for efforts such as restricting trade with Pyongyang.
The United States is committed to the complete and permanent denuclearization of North Korea. So important. China can fix this problem easily and quickly. And I am calling on China and your great president to hopefully work on it very hard. I know one thing about your president. If he works on it hard, it will happen. There's no doubt about it. They know.
The two leaders also said that they would work together to tackle terrorism and drug trafficking, while Xinhua state news agency reported that Trump had said that the US government upholds the One China policy in his talks with Xi. But amid the bonhomie and meetings, one thing that caught the world's attention was the US president's tweets. China, known for its Great Firewall, blocks access to many foreign websites, including Twitter. But the Chinese Foreign Ministry skirted the issue with a quick clarification.
Now, you're concerned about the Twitter issue. I can tell you that in China, people have plenty of channels to communicate with the outside world. It's just the ways used vary. That's all. For example, some people use WeChat while some use Weibo. I would say everyone has plenty of channels to be able to communicate.
President Trump also met Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and held a bilateral meeting. Trump is the first foreign leader to officially visit China since the end of a key Communist Party Congress last month, and also the first head of state to be granted an official dinner in China's Forbidden City during his trip. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat this week to talk about Donald Trump's Asia visit is VARGHESE K. George. US correspondent of The Hindu. Welcome and thank you for joining me on the program. As far as US President's marathon Asia visit is concerned, what has been the highlight for you thus far?
Well, this was, as it was told by the White House briefings prior to the visit, this was the longest visit by a US president in last 25 years to this region, covering these many countries and spanning these many days. So the highlight of this visit was to be a speech that Donald Trump gave yesterday in Vietnam. I don't know what the timing was, on November 10th in Vietnam, where he was to give a vision of his administration for Asia Pacific, which they began to call Indo-Pacific in recent briefings and statements, including in President's own speeches. Now, the speech that he gave in Vietnam, I think should be taken as the highlight of his visit, where he explained what his policy to the region would be, which was incidentally sticking to what he has been calling an America First policy, both at home and abroad. Mm-hmm. So for any analysis or any understanding of what we should expect from the United States vis-a-vis its policy in Asia and for India, I think that speech that he gave should be a starting point and a very illustrative one at that.
And how is the media reading his visit to Asia? What is the general public saying about his visit too? Are the domestic issues, overshadowing his Asia visit?
Yeah, that is something which is very peculiar. I don't know whether it used to be like that years ago. But as of now, if you follow American news cycle, whether it is television discussion or newspaper commentaries, the things that happen far away are not really of that significance. The way that we would tend to see or interpret or read from New Delhi or Mumbai is not how most of the American mainstream media see it. Most of the American mainstream media, even in the last week, is really been tuned into what's happening on the special counsel investigation into the alleged meddling in the US election by Russia and the investigation, the involvement of many people who are associated with Donald Trump in that investigation. Those are the things that continue to occupy headlines in the US, while his Asia visit, though it is being covered and it is obviously being reported on, but the discussions, the commentaries, and the focal point of American news cycle in the last 10 days, I doubt it's little far away from what's happening in Asia or the president's visit to Asia.
And is there a takeaway from all of this for India? What can New Delhi take away from Donald Trump's Asia visit?
Well, I think as I've been consistently writing and indicating in reporting, see, there is an enthusiasm among Indian planners and Indian commentators, largely speaking, about the prospects of a new era in Indo-US ties under Donald Trump, because that is premised on fundamentally two factors. One is that he's been much less guarded in confronting two of India's primary rivals in the region, Pakistan and China. So he's made statements and rhetorical moves which appear to be confronting these two rival powers, and therefore, consequentially, his policies could be more beneficial to. Is part one of it. The second reason why there is enthusiasm among pro-India or people like Friends of India in the United States, and obviously people who are in India, is the fact that Donald Trump is out to disrupt the status quo of the world order. India being a rising power, which is actually not been an entirely beneficiary of a status quoist world order, though India has been beneficiary in many ways. The US-led market order and global trade systems have been of benefit to India. But at some levels, that system needs to be disrupted and reshuffled, reoriented for India to find its own space for growth, or what our leaders come to call India's aspiration to be a leading power in the region. So from these 2 points, that is one, the first is that the Trump administration's willingness to confront China and Pakistan on the one hand, and on the other hand, its willingness to take a step back from many of the roles that the US had appropriated or assumed for itself will open new ways and new doors for India to get in, take a step forward, and sort of find its own destiny and space for growth.
All right. Varghese, George, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you.
Well, it's time for a short break now. Still to come, Saudi anti-corruption probe finds $100 billion was embezzled. That and much more still to come. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The visibility conditions, they are so poor that you cannot see beyond 30 meters from here.
ड्राइविंग करते वक्त एक तो काफ़ी धुंध रहती है, धुआं है, दिखने में रोड भी साफ नहीं दिख रहा.
It's bad situation overall.
Suffocation सा लग रहा है बहुत ज़्यादा. You can see the kind of haze which is there in the backdrop, and as I speak on camera, it is so suffocating, it is so difficult to talk.
Watch our special report, Under the Haze, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira. US President Donald Trump on Monday called the Texas shooting one of the most horrific incidents in the state's history. Condemning the attack, he said that the mass killing was a result of a mental health problem at the highest level. Last Sunday, at least 26 people were killed in a shooting at a church in the small town of Sutherland Springs in Texas.
US President Donald Trump on Monday said the worst mass shooting in the modern history of Texas is not a situation. Trump, who is on a tour of Asia, added that the gunman was a deranged individual, denying that guns were to blame for the shooting. Trump's remark came after a gunman killed at least 26 worshippers and wounded 20 others at a church in southeast Texas on Sunday.
Health is your problem here. This was a very, based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual, a lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it.
The state we are dealing with the largest mass shooting in our state's history. There's so many families who've lost family members, fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters. The tragedy, of course, is worsened by the fact that it occurred in a church, a place of worship, where these people were innocently gunned down. We mourn their loss, but we support their family members.
The attack happened at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, a small town in Wilson County. The massacre has sparked renewed calls for tighter gun control laws in the US. The suspected gunman, identified as 26-year-old Devin Kelly, was later found dead in his vehicle some miles away. Reports say that he was fired on by a local resident after the shooting. Kelly was discharged from the US Air Force in 2014 following a court-martial for assaulting his wife and child. The motive for the killings, however, is not clear.
The suspect has not been completely identified. We believe he's a young white male, maybe in his early 20s. He was dressed in all black tactical type gear.
Shock that somebody would decide, of all places, this small little church. Why this church? Why would you do this to people like that are just praying? They're just worshiping. Why would you attack them on something on a Sunday when they're defenseless?
Meanwhile, a candlelight vigil was held for the victims. The shooting comes just a month after a gunman in Las Vegas opened fire on an outdoor music festival, killing 58 people. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, much else has unfolded around the world this week. Here's a quick roundup of some other international news in Globe Watch.
Saudi Arabia's Attorney General said at least $100 billion has been misused through systemic corruption and embezzlement in recent decades. Sheikh Saud Al Mujib said 201 people were being held for questioning as part of a sweeping anti-corruption drive that began last weekend. He did not name any of them, but they reportedly include senior princes, ministers and influential businessmen. He also stressed that normal commercial activity in the kingdom had not been affected by the crackdown and that only personal bank accounts had been frozen. The British Secretary of State for International Development, Priti Patel, resigned on Thursday amid a political storm over her secret meetings with Israeli officials. She was summoned back from Kenya by British Prime Minister Theresa May after it was revealed that she met senior Israeli officials during a family holiday in the summer. May later replaced Priti Patel with Penny Mordaunt. Mordaunt, who has previously held junior ministerial roles, had a short meeting with May during which her appointment as the new International Development Secretary was confirmed. The UK has 2 weeks to clarify key issues or make concessions if progress is to be made in Brexit talks, the bloc's chief negotiator has said. Michel Barnier was speaking after meeting the Brexit Secretary for talks on citizens' rights, the Irish border and the UK's divorce bill. David Davis said it was time for both sides to work to find solutions. Before the talks, Theresa May said she wanted the UK's exit date set in law and warned MPs not to block Brexit. UNESCO member states on Friday approved the nomination of France's former culture minister Audrey Azoulay to head the UN Cultural Agency. The vote was 131 in favour to 19 opposed to the nomination by the agency's board last month of Azoulay, who becomes UNESCO's second woman director general. Azoulay succeeds Irina Bokova, who was UNESCO's first woman director and whose second term expires this month. Azoulay narrowly defeated Hamad bin Abdulaziz Al Kawari of Qatar, also a former culture minister, in last month's politically charged election.
Well, let's now shift gears and bring you up to speed with all the sports news you might have missed this week in sports action.
Spain's goalkeeper Iker Casillas won the 2017 International Golden Foot Soccer Award in Monaco. Casillas, who plays for Portuguese club Porto, beat Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Thiago Silva and Manuel Neuer to grab the award. The award recognizes the best active footballer of the year, aged 28 and over, and was based on votes by media and members of the public. Casillas has also won 5 league titles and 3 Champions Leagues while at Real Madrid. Roger Federer stole the show at the ATP World Tour Awards as he bagged 3 prizes, including the Stefan Edberg Sportsmanship Award. Competing against the likes of Rafael Nadal, Andy Murray and others, it was Federer who also took away the fans' favourite award for the 15th year in a row. But this is the first time that the 36-year-old Swiss has won the comeback award. Federer, who won 2 Grand Slams in 2017, said he shared the award with Rafael Nadal, who also won 2 Grand Slams. Federer and Nadal are the top 2 players in the ATP World Tour Finals. Olympic marathon winner Jemima Sumgong was banned for 4 years after her claim of taking EPO for an ectopic pregnancy was rejected. Sumgong told a Kenyan law court that she was given the banned substance in hospital, but her paperwork was deemed to have been provided by an imposter and her claims were labelled as inauthentic. EPO or erythropoietin is commonly used to boost the production of red blood cells and encourage more oxygen flow in the body. Lewis Hamilton said that he will not let the controversy over his tax affairs distract him as he heads into the final 2 races of the season. Hamilton is one of the high-profile figures whose tax situation came under scrutiny in the Paradise Papers. The Mercedes admitted that there was a bit of a storm surrounding him. Hamilton, who clinched his 4th world title at the last race in Mexico, said that he is determined to win at Interlagos on Sunday and in Abu Dhabi on 26th of November.
And finally, a superstar lineup including Lionel Messi and Zinedine Zidane unveiled the Telstar ball, the official ball to be used at the 2018 World Cup. The Telstar has an embedded near-field communication chip which enables interaction with it using a smartphone. This will be the first time in football history this technology will be embedded in a ball for the World Cup. I'm going to leave you this week with these visuals. Until next time, this is Frank Pereira signing off.